Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this special Remembrance service. My name is Jeannie Hale, and I'm a chaplain and an educator with the Department of Spiritual Care at WakeMed Hospital. I know this is a bit different from our usual October 15th Remembrance service, where we gather in the courtyard at the WakeMed Raleigh campus and share hugs, see people we may only get to see once a year, and enjoy a cookie and a warm drink after the service is over. But this is 2020, and everything about this year has been a bit different. We appreciate your willingness to join us virtually this year, and I'm hoping that even though we won't get to be with you in the way that we have in years past, maybe some of you who would not have been able to participate otherwise are joining us from your home this evening. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know that you can find a link to the program for this service in the description box under the live stream video. You can click the link to open the program and follow along with the service. In the program, you'll notice that at 7 p.m., we'll light a candle to join in the International Wave of Light. And then later in the service, we'll light smaller candles, giving time for you to light a candle and say aloud from wherever you are the name of the child or children you are honoring this evening. There will be a time following the invocation for you to locate candles to light along with us, if you would like to do so. This evening, we're taking time out to honor, remember, and bear witness to those little ones who were in our lives only briefly, yet touched our hearts forever. To give you a little history about how this Remembrance Day got started, in 1988, President Ronald Reagan proclaimed October as National Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. He stated, "When a child loses his parents, they're called an orphan. When a spouse loses their partner, they're called a widow or widower. When parents lose their child, there isn't a word to describe them. This month recognizes the loss so many parents experience around the world." In 2002, the Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day campaign began when Robin Baer, Lisa Brown, and Tammy Novak petitioned the federal government, as well as the governors of each of the 50 states, to recognize October 15, 2002, as the first observance of Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day. As a further effect of the American campaign effort, the National Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day was passed in the House of Representatives on September 28, 2006. Since 2006, it's been proclaimed annually by all 50 states. This day focuses on raising awareness about the problem of pregnancy loss and infant death. On October 15th of every year, people from all over the world take time to honor and acknowledge pregnancy and infant deaths, supporting one another and sharing stories, tears, pain, and love. It's been said that grief is not a sign of weakness, nor a lack of faith. It's the price of love. This evening, we join together to hold space for that grief, to be connected with others who understand your pain and struggles, and to be reminded that you're not alone. So welcome to all, and thank you for being here. We're honored to be sharing this sacred time and space with you.
I invite you to join me in a place of prayer. God of generations, be with us as we remember what was and what might have been. Be with us in those familiar aches and those empty spaces, spaces of yearning, spaces of memory. Be with us and give us courage to be fully present in this place of provision. Holy One, open us to you, the one who spans time and space, who bridges life and death, and who gives us hearts, hearts in which we cherish those we love, hearts that hold the emotion of each and every day, hearts that go on far beyond what we can imagine. God of all generations, be with us and hear our prayer. Amen. Now is a great time to go and locate a few candles to light later in the service. After you've gathered those, or while you're sitting now, I invite you to relax and listen to some music.
Good evening. My name is Tina Morris Anderson, and I'm a staff chaplain at WakeMed on the Raleigh campus. As I light this candle, we join others around the globe who are participating in the International Wave of Light. The Wave of Light commences on October 15th, tonight, at 7 p.m., beginning at the International Date Line on Christmas Island and circling around the world. Candles, monuments, landmarks, and buildings are illuminated for a period of at least 1 hour in observation of this day of remembrance. The result is a continuous chain of light spanning and illuminating the globe for a 24-hour period in honor and remembrance of all loved and longed for babies gone too soon.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Koch, and I'm a staff chaplain at WakeMed Cary Hospital. Our reading this evening was written by Aldine Salovi, entitled Birthday No More. This empty space and time in my heart is yours. It is the space for yearning, the space of memory, the day your light came into this world, a day of sorrow for what was lost, birthdays that will never be. This day touches the depths of my grief and loss. This day touches a wound and makes it new. God of generations, be with me as we remember what was and what might have been. I miss you.
Hi. As I mentioned earlier, my name is Jeannie Hale, and I'm a chaplain and an educator with the Department of Spiritual Care here at WakeMed. I also have the honor of being one of the facilitators for the Parental Grief Support Group that meets on the first and third Thursday evenings of each month. The parents I've met at parent care and in the hospital have been teaching me a lot, so I wanted to share just a little of what I've been learning from them. And some of those parents are here tonight with us, so you'll be hearing from them as well. Courage is one of those things they've been teaching me about. The courage it takes to be vulnerable, face your pain and grief, and allow others into that pain and grief. And also the courage it takes to listen to yourself and give yourself permission to rest, to be still, to say no, to pay attention to what you are needing, and not get caught up in the voices that say we have to grieve in a particular way or be doing something productive every waking minute. I've been learning about the healing that can happen when you're able to speak aloud your truth, the truth about your anger, your hopes and dreams for your child, your despair, your uncertainties and questions. And I've learned that when people are willing to risk being vulnerable and honest with one another, there's somehow room for everything: the tears, the smiles, the anguish, and the sighs too deep for words. I've been learning that rituals around remembering birthdays and due dates and honoring the anniversary of a child's death are important. Rituals offer ways of healing, coping, and grounding that can help you grieve and connect. I've been inspired by the depths of compassion people can offer in the midst of grief, and I've seen how powerful that compassion can be for the giver and for the receiver. But most of all, I've witnessed love, deep, immeasurable, enduring love for the babies you long to hold in your arms, the babies you carry always in your hearts. I'd like to share a poem that I think speaks to that love and the need for that love to be known. This is a poem called Please Ask by Barbara Taylor Hudson. Someone asked me about you today. It's been so long since anybody has done that. It felt so good to talk about you, to share my memories of you, to simply say your name out loud. She asked me if I minded talking about what happened to you, or would it be too painful to speak of it. I told her I think of it every day, and speaking about it helps me to release the tormented thoughts swirling around in my head. She said she never realized the pain would last this long. She apologized for not asking sooner. I told her, thanks for asking. I don't know if it was curiosity or concern that made her ask, but I told her, please do it again sometime, soon. My hope for all who are grieving the death of a child or the loss of a pregnancy is that you have what you need. If sharing with others is helpful for you, I hope you find opportunities to share freely with people who will cry with you, laugh with you, be angry alongside you, and just be present with you. Not telling you what to do or how you need to walk this journey, but sitting with you in the pain, grief, and unanswered questions, offering to be there with you in whatever way you need in that moment. However it is that you choose to honor your grief and your love for your child, I hope you'll offer yourself grace and permission to feel whatever you need to feel, recognizing that there's no right or wrong way to grieve. And I hope you know that you are in our hearts. You're not alone. Tonight, we join in solidarity and support with grieving parents and families around the world to light up the night in honor of the children carried in the hearts of their families, families who love them fiercely and who didn't really get to say hello before they had to say goodbye. Tonight, we say together, we remember, we are with you, and we care. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dr. Sarah Robb-Scott. I am one of the neonatologists here at WakeMed. It is a privilege to be here representing all of the obstetricians, neonatologists, pediatricians, surgeons, the nurses in the offices and the labor and delivery floor, the NICUs and the nurseries, the pediatric wards, those technicians, ultrasounds, med techs, those ancillary staff, our therapists, all of those who participate in the journey through pregnancy, childbirth, and those early months of infancy. We are here to tell you that we grieve with you and that we remember your children and your stories. We all work hard to have the best of outcomes in these journeys. And we know that despite some of the best efforts, those are not always possible, and that there are turns in the journey that lead to an ending that none of us would wish. But it does not mean that just because these are short events and short lives, that these are not impactful and that they do not make amazing memories. The families that we take care of in the most trying of times are often the ones that we form the closest bonds with and have the strongest memories of. I can think of many families who have taught me important lessons along the way. The mother of twins who taught me how to know when a family is preparing to say goodbye.
to the mother who taught me how gratitude in the face of grief can still exist when she asked how she could get a letter to the ambulance driver to thank him for the efforts he made to get her to the hospital on time. To the families that taught me of courage and compassion when the father sat down with his preteen daughter to tell her that her baby sister was not going to come home. These families and a million more have left marks with us that work hard on behalf of all of them to improve and make even the worst of moments bearable and something that can be seen and remembered and honored. It is important that we stop and remember that grief is not always a terrible feeling, and it is something that reminds us how deep this love is felt and how important these lives have been to us. So on behalf of all of those of us in healthcare in all of its many forms and walks, we are here to say that we grieve with you and that we remember.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Alexander. It is an honor to have the opportunity to share my son Griffin with you all tonight. Everyone watching has experienced a great loss, and I want to start by saying how sorry I am that your lives have been divided into the before and after. I'm so sorry that life will never be the same. My heart aches for you as you mourn. Give yourself permission to grieve. The loss of my son broke and reshaped me. My journey has not come without struggle, but within the wrestling and intentional processing, I've experienced healing. My loss was 7 years ago, so please don't compare where you are with my voice today. But I hope that I can be some kind of beacon of hope for you, that you will find your smile again, but you will also never lose your connection with your baby. My husband and I are both Raleigh natives. We were married in 2007 and welcomed our daughter Marguerite in 2010. We also have a son named Branch, who is 4, and a son named Griffin, who has been in heaven for 7 years. Marguerite was born in 2010 at 37 weeks after a normal and healthy pregnancy. Deciding to have a second baby was a huge step for us since we both grew up as only children. In January of 2013, we learned that we were having a boy. We were over the moon excited and decided that he would be named Haywood Griffin Alexander Jr. after my husband. We would call him Griffin. I started dreaming of what it would be like to be a boy mom. I imagined tripping over dinosaurs and Lego collections, the basketball goal at the end of the driveway, the possible frog collection, and the superhero bed sheets. I envisioned a son who would one day tower over me with the strength of a man, but the heart of a boy. I already knew what to expect with childbirth, so I spent most of those 9 months in nesting mode. I decided that Griffin's nursery would be a nautical theme. I never realized how much joy could be found in finding the perfect sailboat accessory. I filled his closet with monogrammed John Johns, bibs, and burp cloths, and I found joy in purchasing even the necessities like Desitin, packs of diapers, and washcloths. I took Marguerite on many of these shopping excursions with me. She picked out a blue bunny to give Griffin when she met him for the first time. I bought her a big sister dress, and I bought myself a light blue housecoat for hospital pictures. I was probably the most prepared mother in Raleigh. During this time, I often imagined what would be the happiest moment of my life. Marguerite walking into the room to meet her brother and holding both of my children in my arms. My dreams to be complete 1 month before my 30th birthday. Haywood and I installed the car seat in the car. We went out for our last date before Griffin's impending arrival, and we packed a suitcase. I even made a list of all the babies that were due around the same time and would be in our playgroup. I was past 37 weeks, Griffin was safe, and I was on top of the world. At 38 weeks and 3 days, Haywood and I were sitting in bed watching TV when I felt a sudden and sharp pain in my back. I jolted upright and thought, this is it, contractions are starting and we'll be meeting our baby. However, when I went to the bathroom and saw the bright red blood, I immediately knew something was wrong, and I screamed to my husband to call 911. Once I was in the ambulance, a paramedic asked me if I needed to push, and I said no. He responded, "I know you want a Doppler, but we don't have one." For some reason, I hadn't thought about Griffin's heartbeat yet. I was prepared for what I thought would be an emergency C-section. Panic set in as I focused on my stomach, trying to jiggle Griffin into movement. My placenta was positioned across my stomach, so I didn't feel big movements like I had felt with our daughter. Part of me wanted to scream to cut me open right then and there to save him, and part of me said to stay calm. Nothing bad happens at term. I was taken to WakeMed triage, and a familiar face brought me calm. My nurse, Samantha, was the same nurse who had helped coach me through Marguerite's birth. She checked my cervix and commented on the amount of blood, but said that sometimes it could be a normal part of delivery. I held my breath as she placed the Doppler on my stomach. I can still see her concerned expression as she pulled up the first placement and tried for the second. "Honey," she asked me, "when was the last time you felt him move?" I cried, "I don't know," as she placed the Doppler again and again, only to be met with silence. I started screaming her name as the realization sunk in that our son had died. I don't know the exact sequence of events that came next, but I remember looking at the clock on the wall and praying that I was still asleep and it was a nightmare. Dr. Smith came in with the ultrasound machine and pointed out Griffin's heart. He pointed to his chest and said, "This is his heart, and there's no heartbeat." The world fell out from beneath me as Haywood collapsed against the bed. I couldn't remember how to breathe, and it felt like an elephant was sitting on my chest as my blood pressure rose to levels twice my normal numbers. I thought that if I closed my eyes, I would die too. If my child had died inside of me, something must be terribly wrong in my body. I thought my organs were shutting down. It didn't make sense for Griffin's heart to stop beating while mine kept going. I thought that stillbirth was something that only happened in developing countries. The chances of it happening to your child are so small. I thought it was something I would never have to worry about because it wasn't going to happen to me. I asked if we could donate Griffin's heart valves, and I was devastated to learn that we couldn't because we didn't know the exact time of death. I used to work for Carolina Donor Services on the tissue recovery team, so this news was especially crushing. I wanted so badly for something good to come from tragedy. I didn't want another couple to experience the pain that we felt in losing a child. I can still see Samantha's face as she held my hand in hers. Tears streamed down, and she said, "I'll never forget you." These words were simple, yet they have resonated with me years later. Her compassion moved me. Sometimes the greatest love comes from bearing witness to someone's experience. She was telling me, "I see you and what you're going through. What's happening to you matters to me." Her focus was not to make the pain go away. She knew that was impossible, but rather to show that she was standing beside me in support. I was scared to hear that a vaginal delivery would be my safest and recommended option. How would I labor and give birth to my deceased baby? The labor and delivery hall is supposed to be the happiest place on earth. I heard women in labor and babies crying as I was wheeled to a room at the end of a hallway. I was in labor for 8 hours. I was numb and in shock. It's almost as if God picked me up to cradle me in his arms. I don't know how else I survived that night. At 8 in the morning, I was ready to push. There were no lights, minimal drapes, and not a sound in the room. Griffin was born at 8:18 on June 3rd, 2013. It was the most anticipated moment of my life, and it will forever be the most painful. Having the best and worst moment of your life share the same space within your heart is indescribable. Dr. Bass asked if I wanted him placed on my chest, and I asked if I could have a minute to collect myself. I questioned, "Does he look okay?" The nurse said, "Yes, he's beautiful." I turned to the left where she was standing by the scale, and I took the first look at our son. He was even more beautiful than I'd imagined. I was overwhelmed with pain and sadness, but also great love and pride, just like any mother after giving birth. He was 9 pounds, 2 ounces, 22.5 inches long. The nurse placed him in my arms, and my first words to him were, "I love you, Griffin." He had a head of fuzzy dark hair and full cheeks that I kissed over and over again. He was perfect and so still. My heart was aching for his eyes to open, for his mouth to open and make the perfect sounds of a newborn. I held his feet in the palm of my hand as I memorized their length. I wrapped his fingers around mine as I studied every part of God's fingerprints. My husband leaned over and cradled us both in his arms. We felt uncomfortable after Griffin's birth, with the unknown of what would come next. We wondered how much time we would have with him. I quickly decided that as long as I was in the hospital, I wanted him with me. My mother's instinct was to keep him close. I had been primed to nurture and to protect him. We were taken to a postpartum room where we met our postpartum nurse named Christina. As she wrote her name on the whiteboard, she also wrote, "Griffin is beautiful." In one simple sentence, she told us that she saw us. She saw him. Our son was not the elephant in the room. He was the gift. Christina helped us feel more comfortable by exuding quiet confidence. She held Griffin and cared for him with a sacred tenderness. She treated him like a living baby, asking us if she could put a hat on him or help us keep him swaddled. She arranged for pictures with a hospital photographer. She had foot molds made for us, and she gave us a memory basket and explained its thoughtful contents. These keepsakes mean the world to me. It's all I'll ever have as physical proof of his existence, to go along with my memories, that he was here and that it's not all a dream. We never felt pressure to leave Griffin. Christina encouraged us to spend the night with him, and from that moment on, we cherished every minute. The 24 hours we had with him were a painful hourglass. Morning came, and we knew that we'd have to say goodbye. I sat in the rocker and sang a lullaby to Griffin as I held him for the last time. Christina traded shifts with someone so that she could be there for us with our discharge. I don't think I could have handed him over to anybody else. I placed him in her arms, and she walked out of the room with my heart. When she took me to the car, we both cried, and she gave me a big hug. We have since reconnected, and she will always be a special person to me. No words can describe the pain of going home without your baby and taking the empty car seat into the house. Marguerite looked to my smaller belly and empty arms and asked, "Mommy, where's Griffin? Will Jesus bring him back to us?" For months, we had prepared her for his arrival, and she had already become the best big sister, talking to him, hugging my belly, and feeding my belly button her favorite snacks. As I shared the news that shattered her heart, I vowed to be strong for her. I had to learn how to keep moving forward. I specifically remember walking to the mailbox one day. My senses felt different. I could hear the rustling of leaves, I could feel the warmth of the sun, and hear the birds chirping like never before. I felt like I was emerging from a cocoon and had so much to learn about my new world, but my wings were clipped, and I needed to start a new journey toward healing. It's awkward to navigate life when yours has been turned upside down, and you have to rediscover who you are in the midst of it all. I decided to attend an area support group that was highlighted in my WakeMed bereavement packet called Parental. The facilitator has been a beacon for many families in the baby loss community. This group was invaluable to me as I learned to navigate my new world. The facilitator and other families in the group received me, loved me, and carried me through. I'm sad for the reason we met, just like I'm sad to know those watching share this connection with me. But nevertheless, we met and are meeting tonight because our children brought us together. Without our children, we would have never known that love and grief can run so deep. There's a wall that comes down when you meet someone who can truly say, "I know your pain." Someone who gets how hard those initial days are, the holidays, the anniversaries, the anxiety, the secondary losses, and the day-to-day struggles. Parent care families have prayed with me, over me, and for me when I needed it most. They sat with me when I didn't have the words to express just how much my heart was hurting. They listened as I shared how we chose our son's name, the plans and excitement we had for his life, how we decorated his nursery, and the scripture for his grave marker. They were there for me through the additional losses we had, and finally another full-term pregnancy that was riddled with fear and anxiety. Parent care gave me the gift of practice in sharing my son's story. Being able to talk about Griffin easily and naturally has been essential in going forward, knowing that I haven't fully lost him and now I live my life for both of us. I can imagine him saying, "Mommy, I know this is hard for you, but do you see all these people God put in your life to help you through? Aren't they amazing? This love is just a glimpse of heaven." There is no doubt that love is stronger than death. Please know that as you remember your baby tonight, I will be remembering him or her with you. Even though we may not know each other personally, we are all connected through our love for our children. Kara Bosworth recently wrote, "Where are we supposed to put all this love that was reserved for them?" The answer becomes clear. All around us, of course, and into them still. Most importantly, we must put the love back into ourselves again. I know without a doubt our babies are proud that we are still standing with courage and love as we honor them.
Good evening. My name is Heather Green, and I am here to share my story of my daughter, Addison Margaret Green. Addison was born 11 years ago at the 38.5 week of my pregnancy. She was perfect in every way. She had 10 fingers, 10 toes, and came from a pregnancy that was easy. There were no problems, there were no issues. So when I went in on September 3rd of 2009 and laid on the bed and the nurse got the Doppler and searched for the heartbeat, I just remember grabbing her hand and putting it where it always was. Because you know these things, because you know them so well. And so I just kept putting it where her heartbeat had always been. And kept saying, no, it's down here, it's down here. Of course, she didn't find the heartbeat, and she went and got the doctor. And he came in and he said, and the words that you can never forget, the "I'm so sorry," words that I will always hate. So September 3rd was the day we found out she died, and we went immediately to the hospital to deliver her. I know some families choose to take time before they deliver after losing. I wanted it over with. I'm a point A to point B person, so we went straight to the hospital where I remember being in the room and just looking at my dreams of the isolette that was still in there, the whiteboard that said, "Welcome to labor and delivery with such happiness," the big window on the left, it was just the perfect room. It was everything I'd imagined. So that was really hard. And then the realization comes that you have to deliver, which you know, but it's hard to imagine that you go through all of that and then you have to deliver the baby. So 13 hours later, it was a night that I remember the evening nurse was so strong and powerful, just what I needed when I first arrived at the hospital. Lawanda was her name. The night nurse was so gentle and so calm and so perfect for my evening overnight stay. As I labored, you might call it, I had an epidural, so I didn't really have to do anything but lay there and look at the ceiling and wonder why. That morning at 6:45, I pushed, I think 3 times. I was motivated. I wanted it over with. I wanted her out for her sake, not for me. I just felt like it was torturing her to have to be in my stomach any longer. So it was 3 pushes and she was out, and she was perfect. She had 10 fingers, 10 toes. She had red hair. She was beautiful. And the only thing that was wrong with her is that she wasn't breathing. So from there, your life ends and begins again at the same time. So we had to do as Jennifer said in her experience, you have to do the going home, getting in the car with a car seat that was not going to be used, and walking through the door of your home that was waiting for a baby. Very difficult, very hard, but I come here tonight to offer not just my story of Addison Margaret, but and to share her name and to say it out loud, which is so important, but also to offer hope. 11 years ago this happened, and I have survived 11 years. In those 11 years, I've had 2 more beautiful miracles, Layla Madison and Robert Martin, and they are fantastic, and I cherish every moment I have with them. There's hope that your life can continue and you can find meaning and purpose. I have volunteered as a parent on a parent advisory council for a local hospital NICU. I have volunteered on a bereavement committee at a local hospital. I have found in my loss this desire to effect change and to not only reach out and help those who are also suffering through this. I've been texted and messaged, and I'm the go-to person for friends and family, people I haven't seen since I was a child. When they have someone who loses a baby, I'm the one they reach out to, and I am happy to be there and support. But over time, I realized I wanted more than that, and I started reaching out and trying to find ways to volunteer to help others in different ways. And my hope is also that we can change things to prevent some of these losses from occurring at all. And I have recently volunteered to be the North Carolina ambassador for the Count the Kicks campaign, which is a campaign started in Iowa by 5 women who also lost to stillbirth, and they decided to do something about it. They created this campaign to educate women and the medical professionals on the importance of counting kicks in pregnancy and on knowing your baby's movement pattern to hopefully prevent unnecessary 3rd trimester stillbirths. So I'm excited, believe it or not, 11 years out, I'm excited for what can be done to keep other families from standing here on October 15th and remembering their babies. I want them to hold their babies. So as you mourn your losses and remember your babies, say their names, and know that there's hope, that you will find your path, and they are all different. Mine is a path of volunteering and reaching out. Yours may be a path of just surviving and showing your strength in that way. There is no wrong path. And I just want you to know that you'll get there, and we love you and we love your babies. And I pray that God wraps his arms around each of you tonight, and that you are comforted by the stories of ours and others. Thank you so much.
I fear I will not be quite as composed as my previous moms. So it is appropriate that I am starting with an apology. I rue the fact that my words will fail me, because I cherish this time. So I'll start with the thank yous. Thank you to WakeMed. Sounds funny to think for such a day, but thank you for giving this time and this space and for hearing me and my family. Thank you for infant and pregnancy loss. Remembrance Day. Thank you to all of you around the world that take a moment to hear the children that are not here and the children that will not be heard. Just for tonight, my name is Dancy's mom. Oh, to be called that over and over and over again. My daughter, Providence Faye Orsman, shortened to Dancy, was born at 39 weeks, 7 pounds, 3 ounces, just under 21 inches long. She was perfect and beautiful, and her heart was no longer beating. To hear the silence in that room, to hold that silence here with you tonight, it is something that I treasure, and it is one of the ways that I hold my daughter. So moms and dads, I hear you. I hear your sobs. I hear your silent tears. I hear the anguished cries. I hear the questions of brothers and of sisters, and I hear the fracture in the answer to the question, how are you? When you have to say, I'm fine, and when you want to say, I'm changed, I'm altered, I am anything but fine. I hear the grandparents and the aunts and the uncles and the cousins with dreams unfulfilled. I hear the neighbors and the friends who don't know what to say. And I offer to you that sometimes simply saying that can be a help. And now to the thanks. To all of the doctors and to the midwives who saw me as a mom and not as a chart. To the RN and the NPs who attend another and another and another training on how to deal with moms like me. To the nurse, to the nurse who put my family in a recovery room far away from the sounds of babies crying. To the nurse who washed my daughter so carefully and gently and who wrapped her in a blanket so that she would not be cold. To the nurse who promised me not to leave her alone. To the CNs and to the chaplains who told me and promised me that the way to be a good mom in that moment was to walk out the doors of the hospital and to leave with an empty car seat. And so I arrive quickly back to where I began, which is thanking you and thanking WakeMed and thanking all of the people around the world on Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day. And I thank you for hearing me.
Good evening. My name is Todd Campbell, and I am a chaplain resident with the Spiritual Care Department at WakeMed Raleigh. I'll be singing for you this evening, My Heart Will Go On. It's performed by Celine Dion.
I see you, I feel you, that is how I know you. Go on. Far across the distance and spaces between us, you have come to show you. Go on. Near, far, wherever you are, I believe that the heart does go on. Once more, you open the door, and you're here in my heart, and my heart will go on and on. Love can touch us one time and last for a lifetime and never let go till we're gone. Love was when I loved you one true time. I hold to in my life, I'll always go on. Near, far, wherever you are, I believe that my heart does go on. Once more you open the door, and you're here in my heart, and my heart will go on and on. You're here, there's nothing I fear, and I know that my heart will go on. We'll stay forever this way. You are safe in my heart, and my heart will go on and on. Go on and on. My heart will go on and on.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Robb-Scott. I'm the Bereavement Program Coordinator here at WakeMed. In memorial services, it is common to light a candle as we remember loved ones who have died. The flame reminds us that though they are no longer physically with us, their memory lives on and shines bright in our lives as a reminder of the life we have shared with them, however brief. We will take part in a candle lighting ritual together. As the candles are lit, or as you light your own candle at home, I invite you to speak aloud the name of your child or children as we remember them together.
Addison Margaret Green. Haywood Griffin Alexander Jr.
would like to share with you a poem entitled Blessing for Falling into a New Layer of Grief by Jan Richardson. You thought you had hit every layer possible, that you had found the far limit of your sorrow, your grief. Now the world falls from beneath your feet all over again, as if the wound were opening for the first time, only now with an ache you recognize as ancient. Here's the time for kindness, your own, to yourself, as you fall and fall, as you land hard in this layer that lies deeper than you ever imagined you could go. Think of it as a secret room, this space that has opened before you, that has opened inside you. Though it may look sharp in every corner and sinister no matter where you turn. Think of it as a hidden chamber in your heart where you can stay as long as you need, where you will find provision you never wanted, but on which your life will now depend. I want to tell you, there is treasure even here, that the sharp lines that so match your scars will lead to solace, that this space that feels so foreign will become for you a shelter. So let yourself fall. It will not be the last time, but do not let this be cause for fear. These are the rooms around which your new home will grow, the home of your heart, the home of your life that welcomes you with such completeness, opening and opening and opening itself to you, no part of you turned away.
Good evening. I'm Ashley Ann Masters, Staff Chaplain at WakeMed North Hospital.
Please join us in a responsive tribute, which is printed on your program. I will read a stanza in Spanish, Ashley Ann will read in English, and after each time Ashley Ann reads, you are invited to respond by saying, "We remember them." Por favor, únase a nosotros en un tributo responsivo que está impreso en su programa. Voy a leer una estrofa en español, Ashley Ann leerá en inglés, y después de que yo lea, se le invita a responder diciendo, "Los recordamos." En la salida del sol y su caída.
In the rising of the sun and in its going down.
En el sovento del viento y en el frío del invierno.
In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter.
En la apertura de los cogollos y en el renacimiento de la primavera.
In the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring.
En el azul de los cielos y en el calor del verano.
In the blueness of the skies and in the warmth of summer.
En el susurro de las hojas y en la belleza del otoño.
In the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn.
A principios de año y cuando termine.
In the beginning of the year and when it ends.
Cuando estamos cansados y necesitamos fuerza.
When we are weary and in need of strength.
cuando estamos perdidos y hartos de corazón,
when we are lost and sick at heart,
cuando tenemos alegrías y especiales celebraciones que anhelamos compartir,
when we have joys and special celebrations we yearn to share,
mientras vivamos, ellos también vivirán porque son parte de nosotros.
so long as we live, they too shall live, for they are part of us.
Hello, my name is Jeremy Gilmore, and I'm the Director of Spiritual Care here at WakeMed Hospital. I want to thank you for joining us tonight. It's hard to be here. These griefs are hard. The death of a child is a primal pain, and yet we're here, and we're united. We're connected. Your loved ones, your little ones have connected us all. They've made us all into a community. I want to thank the WakeMed family, the WakeMed community, all the staff who serve our patients and families. I want to thank Kristen Kelly and the marketing department for all their work to make this possible. I want to thank the Perinatal Loss Committee for their continued care for our patients who are grieving and families who continue to need our support. But most importantly tonight, I want to thank those parents that have come out and you who are watching. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for your healing. Thank you for your love. You're teaching us how to be better, how to be a community. As we share these names and these stories tonight, we weave those names back into our quilt of humanity. We remind ourselves and the entire human family that they will never be forgotten and never leave our hearts. We hope you found comfort in these words and in this service tonight. Thank you.